And we're going to welcome on our next and final guest, a Go Local regular. You read him every Sunday.
Whether you want to or not.
Robert Whitcomb, Go Local columnist. Thanks for coming on.
Okay.
Let's start global and then maybe get a little more local here, as we like to do. U.S.-China trade relations.
Yes, I think the most interesting thing about that is how much of this is bluffing from both sides. I think the trouble with Trump is that he's placed the national pride, the ego of the Chinese regime in some distress. And so the question is, how much will they back off on these things and actually change some of the laws? What Trump and the Trump administration is asking for is actual numerous changes in Chinese law. And the Chinese don't like to be pushed around. For one thing, it reminds them of the 19th century, when the Western countries pushing them around. Also, I mean, the Chinese will continue to cheat enthusiastically, especially about intellectual property, which is the central thing about this. Whether the other many interesting issues are stirred up by this, the other thing is obviously what will be the effect of the economy of China and especially the U.S. I think, one thing I think we should remember, despite the amount of trade that the U.S. does, the U.S. is a much larger internal market, so you could argue that maybe it won't have that much effect. I think what this does is raise the anxiety level, the uncertainty level. And as you know, business does not like uncertainty.
Doesn't really like uncertainty too much.
Does not like it at all. And this could be a sort of multiplier effect from this thing, especially with corporate debt very high, with a lot of personal debt very high. I understand credit card. Back payments and all that stuff. So there are sort of underlying things in the financial system and the consumer economy and the industrial economy, which are already a little bit shaky. And this could produce
that you think is the bigger issue at play here.
Yeah,
is really how it impacts consumer confidence and market confidence.
Market confidence and how destabilizing will this be? Even though I think we should always be leery of saying that trade is. Implying that trade is as important to us as it is to many other countries, because the domestic market is so huge, somewhat less so. But this does add an element of uncertainty. It makes it more difficult to plan. This will also affect other trade negotiations with the Europeans and the Canadians and so on. It injects uncertainty, anxiety. This is not good for the economy. Confidence.
Speaking of international relations and bluffing and maneuvering, we're looking to have the opportunity to talk this afternoon with Dr. Terry Rohrig at the Naval War College as to what's taking place exactly in North Korea after a couple of summits with President Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un. Now we've seen some missiles being fired. We've seen a warship being commandeered by the U.S.
And this is sad because Trump said, "I'm in love with this guy, with the dictator." He's only killed about 500,000 people.
Well, I think
I'd love someone like that too.
I think the general sentiment after those meetings between the president, he obviously had that first meeting from a diplomatic perspective with Kim Jong-un, but even the subsequent one following up is kind of, where's the beef? Where was the teeth? Where was
rhetoric? Just empty rhetoric.
Where was anything that was going to kind of hold North Korea accountable? And now we're seeing tensions ramping up again, and I'm hoping again that we'll have some insights from Terry Rohrig at the Naval War. He's the preeminent Korean Peninsula expert here in Rhode Island.
Here, one of the leading ones in the country.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's terrific. No, I think Kim may be sensing weakness on Trump's side. Trump's getting, under duress in the United States from impeachment talk. A lot of his family's activities, a lot of his the families and his administration activities.
And Kim Jong-un wants basketball players.
Oh, right.
Yes.
The taller the better.
He said it once again. He wants diplomatic relations to be through basketball players.
A lot of dictators, with Hitler, Stalin, whatever, they're always looking for signs of weakness on the other side. And certainly Trump is facing a lot of uncertainties about his future in the United States. There are an increasing number of economic anxieties, some of which have nothing to do with Trump, but are part of the business cycle. So I think he's taking advantage of that, and he's showing, look, I can't get pushed around. Of course, we remember that a few months ago we were saying, all these missile sites, everything, they've basically been decommissioned. Don't worry about the nukes, everything's taken care of.
One of the things that I hopefully will talk with the professor about, I guess there was some, of course, analysis as to what these missiles look like, and some sites are saying they look very, very Russian.
Right. No, I think it's entirely likely that the Russians are helping the North Koreans as much as they can. And of course, Kim recently met with Putin.
Yes.
It's just sort of anything to undermine the United States.
We'll continue to keep an eye on that moving forward. Getting a little more domestic here. Let's talk about the piece today in Go Local, in which St. Joseph's, the failed pension fund, now the receiver is looking at putting it into ERISA. So, are other church plans going to follow suit? Do you think he's cutting a new path of stability for
around the country,
around
America? Yeah. And there have been somewhat similar cases of bankruptcies, bankrupt or distressed pension funds associated with the Catholic Church. And so I'd be surprised if this isn't seen as something of a precedent.
Well, we'll see. We'll continue to follow that moving forward. And I know a piece you liked that you read this week was Narragansett Brewery opening a microbrewery in Fox Point. Are we going to see you hanging out there in the sunshine with some beers?
I'll be out there having, I'll order a half keg. That'll get me through the afternoon, half keg.
Have some solo cups, invite some friends over.
I think it's a great thing because it's not going to be a big operation, but they'll be manufacturing stuff. They're making stuff as good, and partly because employees of a place that are making things tend to get paid more than service employees. I think in the summer it could become quite a destination. There are wooden picnic tables,
overlooking India Point.
Yeah, and wooden tables and some food. They're talking about food, so this would be a kind of a German beer garden thing, but hopefully without Nazis marching in the middle of it.
Well, looking forward to seeing that start with construction as well. You've got some notes as to what we can expect this weekend.
Yeah, I'm writing about the crazy vaxxers, using a religious exemption to get out of, vaccinating their children, which I think would be disastrous, because if you get more than 5% unvaccinated for these contagious diseases, especially measles, rubella, and so on, you lose the so-called herd immunity. And I don't think the First Amendment protection of freedom of religion, and I might add freedom from religion too, gives them the right to endanger public health any more than the another part of the First Amendment. You can't shout fire in a crowded theater.
Well, you had the point last week when you talked about the well-regulated militia.
Right, well-regulated, yeah. Read the amendment. Read the Mueller report. I've actually read it.
It's tops on the bestseller list for the last several weeks. The print edition has been the top. What else you got for this weekend?
So I write about that. I talk about beer. I speculate what to do with a Wyatt Detention Center. A lot of people there want to close it. I don't think they should close it until they find alternative income for the town.
Would not be.
And it also employs a few local people. My guess is that when the train station, the Central Falls Pawtucket train station opens up, you'll get more people fleeing Greater Boston looking for cheaper housing. And I think.
You think Wyatt could be apartments in the?
All right. How about a high security hotel? Luxury high security hotel. But I think they should wait until that opens, and I think that will tend to encourage some local business, more taxpayers, but I think it would be very foolish for them to close it down. The reason is, of course, Central Falls is heavily Hispanic, and they're angry that a lot of people from south of the border have been held there.
We'll continue to follow that issue. And of course, you want to check in on Sunday to see what Robert Whitcomb has on GoLocalProv.com. And of course, check back in with us on Monday when Josh Fenton is back with Business Monday and more. But we'll catch you throughout the weekend. Wish everyone, including yourself,
absolutely,
a very good one. And we'll see you soon here on Go Local. I'm Go Local News Editor Kate Nagel.
How'd it go? You want to do a do-over?